Welcome to the City of London Sinfonia podcast, giving you insight into our performances, collaborations, and meet the music projects throughout the season. In this episode, we talk about Animal Antics, our May Key Stage 1 project with schools in Tower Hamlets and Harrow, a series of workshops culminating in 2 collaborative performances. So relax, get closer, and enjoy.
Imagine being 5, 6 or 7 years old and never having heard an orchestra before. Imagine the excitement and the thrill of seeing some of the UK's best professional musicians at your school playing for you. I imagine that most people listening to this podcast would not have to think too hard about what that might involve. Perhaps you trained as a musician, you're a music teacher, you're involved in funding projects, or you simply enjoy going to orchestral concerts. But imagine if you didn't have that. Imagine if you didn't come from a family where music was a priority, or a school where music lessons were well funded and it was just something that you did. At City of London Sinfonia, we're very lucky that all our musicians believe in the transformative power of music. The same musicians that you see playing at the BBC Proms or at St Paul's Cathedral or at the South Bank Centre are exactly the same musicians that spend much of their time with the orchestra going into schools, hospitals, care homes, other community settings to share the transformative power of music with the individuals in our society that can benefit from it most. Every term, our musicians, with our wonderful Animateur in residence, Claire Henry, go into schools in some of the most deprived areas of London. They take their instruments, they take stories, they take imagination, they take their creativity. They create songs with the young people, they perform for them in their first ever orchestral concerts. And we hope they give the spark that leads some of these young people onto taking up instruments later in life. As well as this, we know that from talking to their teachers, our projects bring untold benefits in terms of language, communication skills, team building, all the soft skills that people require in today's society. So how does this work? Well, later on this podcast, you're going to hear from some of the young people and the teachers involved in the project and their take on it. But first, let's hear from Claire Henry, City of London Sinfonia's Animateur in residence, that leads these projects and comes up with the imaginative stories that inspire the children.
I'm Claire Henry and I'm Animateur in residence at CLS, which is very exciting.
And what's your favourite thing about the role?
The opportunity to work with the musicians and share all their fantastic playing and their amazing ability on their instruments with the children, and draw the children into that as best as I can during the performances.
How do you think up the programmes used in these sort of projects?
So we come up with an idea for the overall title, so it might be a day at the fair, and that links in with the wider programme for CLS, so we like to tie it all together. So last year CLS did a folk stories, folk music based programme with Sam Lee, and he did a fantastic concert on folk songs, and then we linked the education concert, that was a day at the fair, and we had a maypole and we had folk dancers as well, and folk musicians. So we try and link it all up to the wider programme that CLS are doing at that time.
Alongside Claire, our musicians play a key role in these projects. It's their enthusiasm that helps Claire to tell her story in a fun and engaging way. Let's hear from 3 of them: Principal Viola Fiona Bonds, co-leader Martin Burgess, and co-principal hall Mark Payne.
I just want to say how much I love doing these concerts with Claire Henry. She's amazing. She's got such rapport with the children and this incredible imagination and sense of humour, which just makes it a joy, really, to work with her. And it's a great excuse to just have a real laugh while doing these concerts. Today I'm dressing up as a bee. I've played with goggles and armbands on before. I've done all sorts of stupid costumes, dressing up, and it's just a real laugh because so much of our time is spent seeking perfection and getting every tiny little detail right, and it's all very precious, and that's wonderful as well. But this is just all about letting our hair down and having fun with the children while still maintaining a good standard and hopefully giving them an introduction to classical music.
The energy always sort of dissipates in all directions, and we end up throwing ourselves around as well. And whichever country we're doing it, we recently did it in Japan, and we had the Japanese kids doing the same thing, and I have never seen so much frolicsome play going on. So no, it's great fun.
Mark Payne, the co-principal of the orchestra.
Fantastic. And what's your involvement in the project?
Co-principal horn of the orchestra. Missed out the most important thing. I'm so excited after that concert.
And what's been your role in the project?
Oh, supporting Claire. She's the boss, and she's holding it all together, and we as the instrumentalists are in a supportive role to her. And I was fortunate enough to be invited to do some of the workshops going into the schools at Tower Hamlets and out in Harrow. And just 3 of us were involved in that, supporting Claire, demonstrating our instruments, playing along and getting the kids involved. Boy, we didn't have to work hard at that, they were just so enthusiastic.
Wow, and what's been the most enjoying thing about the project?
Oh, seeing how Claire teaches the children without them realising that they're being taught. There's just so many layers. I always say this when I'm asked about these projects now, with CLS being so advanced in the education work. Claire's role and what she brings to the projects is so multi-layered. It's extraordinary. The children think they're having fun. They're having fun with animals, pulling us out of the mud and swimming along with swans and fish under the water and donkeys and horses and all sorts of things. But they're really learning key skills: rhythm, coordination, working together, creativity, discipline. They're just learning so much, and Claire brings it together layer by layer. There's some very deep things going on there as well.
And they really, they look like they really helped you get out of the mud there.
Well, they did. I'm not sure that I've ever been involved in any sort of orchestral concert where we've had to try and pull ourselves out of the mud, but yes.
You really get involved in the concept, don't you?
Oh, we do, yeah, and it's infectious. Claire's such fun, bouncing around and giving us our little audible cues that the children may not be aware of. So we have to keep on our toes professionally too, but it is, you can't deny it is great fun.
Mark says it all really. We're teaching the children about rhythms, pitches, beats, all musical skills, but all key skills in terms of developing language. Claire explains more about these skills while talking about Animal Antics, our most recent concert with the young people of Tower Hamlets and Harrow.
The bits I loved the most were when the children were taking charge of the instruments, so when they were doing the interactive parts of the concert. So we had some pulling of the ropes, and the children could change the way that the pulling music sounded. And when the children were responding to major and minor triads with a different sort of atmosphere of words that they created. So we had the minor triad was representing that the instruments were stuck in the mud, so they sung "We Are Stuck." And then at the end we had the very happy major triad, and they sung "Take a Bow," which was the end of the story. So that was really musically rewarding for them, I think.
Let's see if we can pull them out with our ropes. Take hold of your ropes. Let's give them a pull. Here we go.
Next, let's hear from some of the children about their experiences. Everything from drums and harps to musical chickens and musical eggs.
Was that your first time doing a project like that?
Yeah.
And how did you feel about it?
Very, very excited.
What was the most exciting bit?
When it was the drums.
Would you like to be a drummer, do you think?
I would like to I want to do the hearts. The heart is better.
Oh, the harp. Lovely. Yeah, it's beautiful.
It sounds like magical.
What did you think of the chicken?
The chicken? Oh, that was the funniest bit.
Right, what a chicken! Goodness me! So, this piece of music is all about this chicken laying an egg and also doing ballet at the same time. So, can you imagine a chicken doing ballet? Can you show me your chicken ballet movement? Very good. Very good. Here we go. This is from the Chicken Ballet by Miss Orchestra.
Did you enjoy the project?
Yes.
Yeah? What was your favourite thing about the workshops? What did you get to do?
We got to clap our rhythm.
As part of the project, the children get to create and sing their own songs with the orchestra. In Animal Antics, the subject they were given to create songs about was mud. However, being 6 years old means that mud is very close to other things that are brown and sticky. If you object to bodily functions, skip the next couple of minutes.
I asked the children what it would be like to be stuck in mud, and that was the only leading question that I gave them. So I said, what would it taste like? What would it smell like? What would it look like? We talked a lot about poo, diarrhoea, slime, bogies, vomits. They had the opportunity to use words probably that they wouldn't normally be allowed to, or they felt as if they were really allowed to experiment with describing that image of the mud, I think. They composed, they gave me the ideas for the words, and I then went away and wrote a melody around those words. So they all had their own class verse, and then we all learnt the same chorus that we sung in the concert.
Can you shout out some of your favourite lyrics to your song?
Diarrhea, you eat poo.
Those lyrics by the children of Weald Rise Primary School. So we've heard from the musicians, from Claire, from the children, but what about the teachers? What's the difference they see in their students and classes from bringing in a professional orchestra? Here's Sue Mattick, music leader at Weald Rise Primary School.
I'm a music leader here, and it's been an absolute pleasure to have the City of London Sinfonia in, just to excite the children. I'm wanting to infuse them with the love of music, and having real players in to show the instruments and the sounds and hear them and see them and touch them, in fact, as we've just heard in the drums there, has been absolutely fantastic. And I can see by the look on the children's faces that they've loved this project, and I'm delighted as a teacher on the side, seeing them actually using some of the things I'm trying to teach them as well, of understanding the timbre and the different elements of music, or the interrelated dimensions as we call it as well. And the children are clearly clearly understanding that and have used it in their creative compositions today, which is wonderful to see. And just the excitement of it all, and for all the staff as well that have been involved. They have so enjoyed it this afternoon. As a culmination of these last 4 weeks, it's been tremendous.
What does a project like this bring that learning in the classroom doesn't?
The reality of actually putting all the music together and enjoying the professional input from players of this calibre. I can use the internet, I can use YouTube, I can use pictures, but meeting the musicians in the flesh, so to speak, and for the children to actually be able to touch the instruments here and hear them played by such accomplished musicians is just phenomenal.
Of course, it's essential that these projects go to the schools that need them most, which is why support from the music education hubs that City of London Sinfonia works with are so important. For this project, we work with Tower Hamlets Arts, Music and Education Service and Harrow Music Service. We had representatives from both music education hubs at the Animal Antics performances. Let's hear from Monica Clifford-Varley at Harrow Music Service about what she experienced in Animal Antics and what she thinks the benefits of City of London Sinfonia's work with young children are.
Why is it important for kids to experience live music at this stage, do you think?
At this age, because it's sowing seeds for the future, and because kids at this age are very impressionable and they remember. And what they hear and experience and feel in their early years lasts with them for life. And music is so much about feelings that the responses they have now are really deep-rooted emotional responses as much as anything else. I could see, I was sitting at the back, so they couldn't see me, but I was watching them, and I could see, I would say, 100% engagement amongst all of them. And the lovely things were, they were all feeling the pulse, and as the music speeded up and slowed down, you could see them responding to that. They had learnt enough during the workshops to actually come in on time with their own little song bits. Each class had learnt their own little bit of singing as well. They'd all got that. And they were just so with it, the whole thing, from start to finish.
They were indeed. And what does CLS bring to these projects in particular?
I think what makes you special is that the players are all young in approach and they're open-minded, and you need those qualities to understand and work with children because it's a very different audience. And I think the nice thing about seeing your players is that they were all very full of smiles, their body language was very approachable, they were all dressed up, I mean, we can't show, on this podcast, but they were all wearing ridiculously funny hats, and there were bits of ivy and seashells and things all over the place, and they were just totally engaging with the children. They understood the children, and that makes you very special. And I think the other thing about CLS is that you're a very outward-looking orchestra and organisation, because behind the orchestra there's a fantastic organisation. You're full of really good ideas all the time.
Earlier I mentioned that musical benefits can often deliver other educational benefits, particularly around language acquisition. And the next steps for us are engaging with academic research partners to try to prove the link between music ability and language acquisition. Sue Mattick expands further.
I think the excitement of the music today will have actually affected all of our children. We have many in this school for whom English is not easily understandable, and it's been so lovely to see these children immediately being able to join in with their classmates and participate and create music, and the clear enjoyment on their faces, just creating those musical sounds of getting louder, getting higher, getting slower. They can do that without any verbal input at all, both through physical and playing the instruments. It doesn't matter what your first language is, you can still bang a triangle and hit a drum.
So you've heard from the musicians, from Claire, from the children, from the teachers, from the music education hubs. We've had great fun this term with our Animal Antics project and are really looking forward to going back into the schools next year to continue our work. As I mentioned before, the next steps for City of London Sinfonia are research. We want to back up what the teachers are already telling us, not just about language acquisition, but other educational benefits as well. For our next 2 podcasts, we're going to give you the view from the orchestra pit around our annual residency at Opera Holland Park, and also the summer collaborations we have with the Globe Theatre, St Paul's Cathedral and the BBC Proms. I'm Matthew Swan, Chief Executive of the City of London Sinfonia, and it's been a pleasure talking to you today. But for the moment, let's let the children have the last word.
Did you enjoy the performance?
A lot.
What was your favourite bit about the performance?
When they were introducing the chicken.
And what was your favourite instrument?
The double bass.
The double bass. Why the double bass?
Because it sounded so loud that I really want to play it.
You've been listening to the City of London Sinfonia podcast, featuring CLS musicians and Animateur in residence Claire Henry, in footage from our Animal Antics Key Stage 1 concerts with teachers and children of John Skur and St. Mary and St. Michael Catholic at St. Paul's Shadwell, and from Weald Rise Primary School. With thanks to our interviewees, Claire Henry, and musicians from City of London Sinfonia, Sue Maddock and children from Weald Rise Primary School, and Monica Clifford Varley from Harrow Music Service. We would also like to thank Thames, Harrow Music Service, and our generous partners and board members for their support throughout the project. This podcast has been produced, edited, and presented by Natasha Allery, Zach Holstrom, and Matthew Swan, part of the City of London Sinfonia executive team.